however they want to do it. So y'all just come on up and share what it is you have to share about Nazarene Youth Congress. And be sure and speak into the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Two. We have to get one for one. During NYC, the biggest part of all of it is the sessions and the speakers. And all of the sessions and the speakers can be found on YouTube. I cannot remember all their names. But my favorite was Kelvin, the deaf-blind potter, and you'll find his on YouTube. His was about the story of God being the potter and we're the clay. And there was Gabby, who talked about Jezebel and Elijah. I'm sure I got that right. And how we have the voice of Jezebel in our head. And now to what I consider the fun parts is the traveling, which was going up to Snowbird and the Olympic Oval. The prayer walk was fun. I'm not going to go too deep into that. Oh dear. Okay. I'm not prepared. Right. Everybody was friendly. With only us three, we pretty much got adopted into the Crossroads group with like El Paso, and they were great. And that is all I have to share for today.
Okay, so Jasmine said that she's not going to go into the prayer walk because we discussed it and that's what I kind of wanted to go over. So we did do a prayer walk. It was, sorry, I need to get my breath. A little nervous. It was really, really fun. We went through neighborhoods and we just kind of prayed over the houses and the people that lived in them. We came across a school and we prayed over the school. And afterwards, we went back to a church and we built some crisis care kits to be distributed to the people in need. August, do you have anything you want to share?
So, I don't really have a lot to say. And I'm really tired, so I'm sorry if that's like isn't said very well. But anyways, the last NYC trip was in Florida in 2023, I think, if I remember right. And um I'm not very sure if this timing's correctly, but my grandfather got an autoimmune disease and he passed away in that year. And ever since that, I have gained resentment from God before NYC because I was really confused as to why that had to happen to him, of all people. For context, at my grandfather's funeral, I said a Bible verse for him, and at NYC, um, they were singing songs and stuff, and um, randomly on the screen, everything just went dark, and the same Bible verse that was said at my grandfather's funeral was just displayed on the screen, and it said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Whenever I saw that Bible verse, I was having fun at NYC, but I didn't really feel God yet. So whenever I saw that verse, felt heard, especially um with how I felt about my grandfather um in relation to God with that, because he had a dream with Jesus in it couple months before he passed away, and I've always wondered ever since then, why didn't God talk to me that way? I think at some points all of us wonder that, like, Lord, why can't we hear you right now? Why are you not responding? But then, like, 3 to 4 years later at NYC, he answers to me, and that just shows his timing is like all his, and it just made me feel a lot better. And after that, NYC just like it had a huge impact on me, and it really got me closer to God, even if it's that small of a experience. But we all have a testimony, and yeah, NYC really helped me. So, oh, also, thank you to whoever helped them come, because I had a great time with them, and it was really fun with them coming along with me, so I wasn't alone. So, I thank you guys for hanging out with me. I had a lot of fun.
Also, thank you, Canada, for coming to our birthday party.
If you want to see some of the sessions, you can Google it, NYC 26, and they're all there, everything they did. If you know how to Google or YouTube it or whatever, it's there. And I have not looked at all of them, but I did see the one with the blind and deaf potter, and you sat there and wondered how he could not be what he was making. I don't know, but he did it. Numbers chapter 13. The Lord now said to Moses, "Send out men to explore the land of Canaan, the land I am giving to the Israelites. Send one leader from each of the 12 ancestral tribes." Numbers 13, we find the nation of Israel is on the doorstep to the promised land. They have arrived at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They could look across the Jordan River and they could see the promised land. All they had to do was cross over and possess it, take it. It was theirs. But instead, they wanted to send some people over to check it out first. In Deuteronomy chapter 1, it says, Moses is talking, he says, "Look, he has placed the land in front of you. Go and occupy it as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged." But you all came to me and said, "First, let's send out scouts to explore the land before us. They will advise us on the best route to take and which towns we should enter." So what we discover is they didn't trust God that the land was good and that it was theirs. They wanted to send somebody over to check it out first, to explore it, to find the best route, to see which towns to enter first, instead of listening to God and following the route that he had. That's what they wanted to do. So God told Moses, send 12 men, leaders from each tribe, to go over and look over what he had already looked over and promised to them. What we see is they lacked faith in God's promises. They thought they needed some information first. But they did not need any information they would collect to go and possess the land. In verse 18 of Numbers 13, it says, so see what the land is like, and find out whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. See what kind of land they live in. Is it good or is it bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Do your best to bring back samples of the crops you see. It happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. Now, as you read through that list of everything they were supposed to check out, none of this mattered. Because one, God had already given them the land. Two, God had told them it was a land flowing with milk and honey. In other words, it was a good land. It was a prosperous land. But yet they thought they needed more information. You know, fear can delay the blessings of God in our life. Fear can keep us from stepping out in faith. It keeps us asking questions. It keeps us doubting. Fear can keep us from accepting God's saving grace in our life because we just don't understand everything that's going on. Fear can keep us from experiencing God's sanctifying grace in our lives. You know, just what is this all about? We don't really understand. What's total dedication? What is consecration? What is all that stuff about? Is entire sanctification really even biblical? You know, is it really possible? Is there a way that God can free us from sin, the control of sin in our lives, and transform us into a holy people that He desires? Is all of that even possible? When in fact it is a promise from God that He wants to do this for us and in us and through us, and the Bible says He is able to do it. But yet fear holds us back. Sometimes we fear doing what God calls us to do. We see it as an uncertain future. The task seems too hard. It puts us out of our comfort zone, and we don't want to get out of our comfort zone because, after all, hey, we're comfortable in our comfort zone. But the thing is, when we reach the place we know God's will for our lives, we must move out. We must go. We must not let fear stop us. John tells us such love has no fear, because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it is for fear of punishment, and this shows that we have not fully experienced His perfect love. We love each other because He loves us first. So the 12 were sent out, and they spent 40 days going over and covering the whole land. Verse 27. This was the report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey, just like God said it would be. Here is the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan River Valley. They all saw the same thing. That was their report. They all saw the same thing. They saw a land flowing with milk and honey. They brought back grape clusters so big it took 2 men to carry them. There were pomegranates. There were figs. It was a beautiful land. But it was occupied by strong people in fortified cities. They all came back with the same report. In Caleb's report, He tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once and take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. And then Caleb and Joshua said to the people of Israel, the land we traveled through and explored is a wonderful land. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into the land and give it to us. It is rich, a rich land flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people of the land. They are only helpless prey to us. They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. Pretty good report, huh? Let's go. In other words, God's with us, so let's go. But then the other 10, they said, hey, it looks really good. But we can't do it. It's not possible. We can't do it. And then they listed all the peoples and where all they were at. Well, did they expect to find a land with no people in it? But they said, we can't do it. The other men who had explored the land with Caleb and Joshua disagreed. We can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw are huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers, and that's what they thought too. They offered their excuses. We're going to be squashed like little grasshoppers. We don't have enough power. We don't have enough finances. We don't have enough resources. We don't have anything that's needed to accomplish this task. And so they spread a negative report. They talked bad about the whole idea, and they swayed the people. Hey, after all, it was 10-2, right? Majority rules, right? The majority is not always right. Just because something is ruled to be legal doesn't mean it's moral or ethical. And besides all that, it wasn't just 10-2. It was 10-2 plus God. When we're faced with a challenge to further God's kingdom, or even to further our own personal relationship with God, do we sometimes sound like the 10 spies? We spread the negative talk, the doubt, the fear. We don't want to take the steps of faith. We would rather continue where we are, even in the desert without the blessings of God. We just like our little comfort zone, so we want to stay where we are, and we miss God's blessing. The blessing of salvation, the blessing of sanctification, the blessing of assurance of being in God's will. And because of our lack of faith and our lack of trust and an oversupply of fear, we are robbed of God's blessing. See, Israel forgot they were not going into the promised land alone. God called them, and he was going to go with them. Maybe the inhabitants of the land were stronger, but were they stronger than God? Yes, they lived in walled cities, but could not God crush those cities? You go forward 40 years, did not God bring down the walls of Jericho? Egypt was stronger than Israel, but did God not rescue them? And the Egyptian army was defeated without Israel even raising a sword? And the walls of Jericho fell without one life of the Israelites being lost? See, for them to say, he can't do it, will in effect say God cannot keep his promises. But God's promises are true. And God is stronger than whatever. I mean, look at what Paul told the Romans in Romans 8:31. If God is for us, who can be against us? And even Jesus told us, don't be afraid of people who can kill your body. Be afraid of the one who can condemn your soul and your spirit. Fear God, not people. What this story tells us is there's a fork in the road. And we're always meeting forks in the road. And then so there's two roads. We have to pick one. There'll be two outcomes too, depending on the road we take. There is the outcome of fear and disobedience. Numbers 14, 2 and 3 says, their voices rose in a great chorus of protest against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in Egypt or even here in the wilderness, they complained. Why is the Lord taking us to this land only to have us die in battle? Our wives and our little ones will be carried off as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? They were in Egypt crying to be freed, and now they're crying to go back to slavery and bondage, or even just die in the wilderness. You see, they abandoned their faith in God. They said no, and God wanted to destroy them. He was tired of their disobedience. You know, God is patient, not wanting anyone to perish. But He will not strive or put up with us forever. He won't do it. In Romans, Paul talked about God letting people go with a reprobate mind. And it's not so much that God quits calling and God quits wooing, but our hearts get so hard and our conscience gets so dull, we don't hear God. That's what happens when we keep disobeying God and going against His will. We get to where we don't hear Him. And that's where He said, I'm through with you. That's what He said to Moses. I'm through with them. But Moses interceded for the people. And folks, that's something important for us to know. When it seems like somebody has got so far away from God that they cannot hear God, we need to intercede for them. We need to pray for them, that their hearts will be softened, that their conscience, they'd get one again and begin to hear the voice of God. Moses interceded for the people. He said, in keeping with your magnificent, unfailing love, please pardon the sins of this people, just as you have forgiven them ever since they left Egypt. Boy, is that a commentary on them? You've forgiven them ever since they left Egypt. And then the Lord said, I will pardon them as you have requested. God forgave them. But there's something we need to notice. Forgiven sin still has consequences. There's a consequence. They will never see the land I swore to give their ancestors. None of those who have treated me with contempt will ever see it. You know, in another place, the Bible said God gives us the desire of our hearts. And we like to think that's good things. God gave the children of Israel the desire of their heart. He answered their request. For they said, we would be better off to die in the wilderness. God went on to say, how long must I put up with this wicked community and its complaints about me? Yes, I have heard the complaints the Israelites are making against me. Now tell them this, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say, and you will all drop dead in this wilderness because you complained against me. Every one of you who is 20 years old or older and was included in the registration will die. You will not enter and occupy the land I swore to give you. The only exception will be Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. And we find they turned around and they wandered in the wilderness until all 20 years of age and older were dead. It's estimated that was about 603,500 men. That's 42 men a day, every day, for 40 years. The 10 spies, they didn't have the privilege of wandering in the wilderness for 40 years or even for 1 year or 1 day because they were killed by a plague instantly. And when the people saw this, they wanted to go now. They wanted to move out, but it was too late. Moses said, you can't go now. God's not with you in this. You can't do that now. But they went anyway, and they were defeated because God was not with them. And this is just another example of we don't come to God when we want to. We come when God calls us, when God woos us. And the truth is, when God calls us to go somewhere, we need to go then because that's when we're assured of His presence in what we're doing. If we're not going then, we may decide to go later, but we're just now going on our own strength, not with the power of God. There's something we need to notice about them. They were forgiven. God pardoned their sin. They were forgiven. They were God's children. But they missed God's blessing. And they wandered in the wilderness till they died. They missed God's blessing. And the thing is, not only did they suffer, but their children suffered too. All of those 19 years of age and younger who could have grown up in a promised land grew up in a wilderness where the blessings of God was not found. Folks, we need to be careful because not stepping out in faith has consequences. And it not only affects us, it affects our children, and it affects everyone around us. It affects the whole church. Not just us. When we fail to step out in faith, other people will suffer along with us, missing the blessing of God. That's one outcome. The other outcome was an outcome of obedience. Caleb and Joshua lived to see the promised land. They lived to cross the Jordan River and enter into the promised land, and God promised Caleb the land that he walked on would be his. And in Joshua chapter 14, Caleb received his land. He received his inheritance. God kept His word. You see, the way to God's blessing is faith and belief and obedience. And what we need to remember, especially when He calls us to go somewhere, the battle's not ours, the battle is the Lord's. He is the one who will fight for us. We're not alone if we are trusting, obeying, and following His promises. Because God's promises are true, and He keeps every one of them. You see, in life, we always come to a fork in the road. One road goes this way, one road goes that way. Two roads. And for each one of us, the question is, which road will you take? Will we take the road that leads to God's blessing? Or will we take the one that does not? Will we take a road of faith and belief and obedience? Or do we take a road of faithless unbelief and disobedience? See, here's the deal. You decide which road you take. You decide. Nobody else is going to make the decision for you. God's not even going to make the decision for you. You decide which road you're going to take, and then God will honor your decision, whether it be good or whether it be bad. It's your decision. You come to a fork in the road, and we've all come to them, and we'll come to some more before we get out of this life. Which road will we take? Where's God leading you? What is He calling you to? What is He wanting you to do? You see, if you follow Him, you will discover the promised land. You will discover God's blessing on your life. And you witness God working through you. in the building of his kingdom. But you're at the road. You're at the fork in the road. Which road you going to take? Listen closely for the voice of God. For there will be only one road at that fork that leads to his blessing. Dear God, this morning, we're thankful for your call upon our life. First off, the call of salvation and the call to dedicate our all to experience your sanctifying power in our life. But dear God, also for the call to go. And dear God, we just ask this morning that when we come to those forks in the road, that we will hear your voice. And we will know the way you want us to go. And that's the way we'll go. May we have the faith and the trust in you to believe in your promises. And that however you lead, if we'll follow you, that's the best way for us to go. For in following you, not only will we experience your blessings upon our life, but those blessings will also spill over to other people around us, to our children, to our families, to our friends, to our church, even into our community. Dear God, help us to discern your will for our life and be willing to cross over into the promised land you have for us. We pray and ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Thanks for coming to worship today. Trust that you will have a great week.